Do you want to make 2025 your most creative year yet? Were you previously a writer, artist, photographer who lost that spark? Or are you someone who just wants to make the everyday more creative? I'm going to share my thoughts and some techniques from the book Creative Calling by Chase Jarvis, along with an incorporation of a couple other my favorite productivity books like The 12-Week Year, Atomic Habits, and Designing Your Life to design your creative life for 2025. My name is Zach, and this channel is usually my thoughts and opinions on science fiction and fantasy books. But in the spirit of New Year's resolutions, I was exploring some of my other genres like personal development, and I wanted to create something different using the principles from these books to stretch my creative muscle and create a content like this where I'm sharing takeaways and actionable items from the books I read and loved. So the background for this as well is I used to be a wedding photographer for over 10 years and then pivoted by getting a bachelor's in computer science and then most recently a master's in business and analytics and AI from NYU. And having that background in creativity, a creative genre like a full-time wedding photographer, and then now being in a more analytical STEM field, for my New Year's resolutions, I want to rekindle some of that creativity and bring creativity back to my life. So this video itself is that representation of I want to expand my horizons, be more creative every day, and also try new things, which is the definition of creativity, creating something new to the world and sharing it with others. So with that, I am doing this video of takeaways and learnings from Creative Calling by Chase Jarvis, and then remixed with some of my favorite ideas from productivity books like The 12-Week Year, Designing Your Life, and Atomic Habits. So what were some of the key takeaways from all these books, and how can I live my life more creatively, and more specifically, what am I even doing myself that I'm sharing to bring this 2025 into a more creative and fulfilling year for me? So the one key takeaway from all these books and with that creative lens is that creativity is a muscle. So if you're into fitness like myself, another interest, you know that things only grow if you stress them and if you build them every day. So much like building your biceps is doing the curls every day and eating right, building your creative muscle is also an intentional practice. Like we can learn from Atomic Habits by doing small actions over time, we can build that creative muscle by taking small steps over time. And like Atomic Habits says, every action is a vote for yourself. So it's identifying yourself as a creative person, as a creative individual, and then what a creative individual does, like a writer writes, like an artist arts, it creates, it draws, a creative person creates. So that is my resolution and a way you can be more creative every day. So how do we break that down? One key takeaway is that creativity is a journey. So let's start with this idea that everyone is creative. You don't need a perfect plan or a defined calling to begin. Creativity is a journey, and the first step is to recognize that you are a creator. So one way to rekindle that creativity inside of you is to think about how kids naturally express creativity through play. They're not worried about perfection or outcomes, they're just creating. Somewhere along the way, some of us lose that instinct. So to reclaim it, start telling yourself that I create my future, I am a creative. This mindset shift from seeing yourself as a consumer to a creator is essential. Every small creative act reinforces your identity as a creator. And as Atomic Habits reminds us, every action you take is a vote for the person you want to become. So one way of doing this is start with a life audit, which is suggested in Designing Your Life, where you think about the things you used to do and that used to bring you joy. You write down these as experiments, not rigid goals. And this is what they call wayfinding, taking small, intentional steps to discover what resonates. But now that we've established this idea of we're going to take small steps and small actions to build a creative habit to reinforce our identity as a creator, the second takeaway is to build creative momentum and accountability with weekly check-ins. So creativity thrives on consistency, not perfection. It's like going to the gym. You don't get stronger by showing up once a month. You get stronger by showing up regularly. That's why weekly check-ins are so powerful. So here's how it works. You set aside time each week to reflect on your progress. You ask yourself these 3 simple questions as a quick journaling prompt. What did I create this week? What energized me? What drained me? And what can I tweak or do differently next week? So now you refer back to these wayfinding experiments during these check-ins. Did the journaling bring clarity? Did sketching for 5 minutes feel like a chore or joy? And you adjust as needed. So this iterative process is central to designing a creative life. And tracking that progress is key. You celebrate the small wins, like writing a single sentence or drawing just one line. And you remove the barriers to entry. You make the minimum effort so low that it's impossible to fail. So 1 sentence in a journal, 1 line on a page, 5 minutes of journal, it all counts. This brings us to our next key point, which is ideas from the book, The 12-Week Year, which is adding a system and accountability through weekly check-ins and setting small goals in 12-week increments. The 12-week year system breaks down your journey into manageable chunks. Instead of thinking about what you want to achieve over a year, focus on what you can accomplish in the next 12 weeks. For example, let's say your goal is to start journaling. A 12-week goal could be write 1 journal entry every day for the next 3 months. Or if you're exploring other creative hobbies, you might say, try 1 new creative activity every week. At the end of 12 weeks, you reflect on what worked and what didn't and what you want to carry forward. Treat it like an experiment. As Designing Your Life put it, prototype your way forward. Try new things, see what sticks, and iterate. So the 12-week year system looks at those weekly check-ins as a measurable progress towards your goal. And while the 12-week year, I felt more fit, larger concrete goals like working towards a degree or working towards a set thing, we can take those accountability and weekly check-ins and add up the score and see what was working and what didn't, and really bring that reflective nature to our goals. And are the habits that we set out to do working or not, and do we need to tweak them and iterate along the way? Now we can begin incorporating some of the other principles from Creative Calling to be more creative in your everyday life. One of the great ideas from the book Creative Calling was create before consuming. And I recently saw this also echoed by Tim Ferriss, was make before manage. So before you watch Netflix, write 1 sentence. Before you scroll social media, sketch for 5 minutes. It's like habit stacking in Atomic Habits. So you stack this habit of being creative with something you already do, like brushing your teeth or making coffee. Another key Creative Calling principle about building a more creative life was what Chase Jarvis calls make your own mentor. So you look at people whose creative lives you admire. You deconstruct how they got there, what habits do they have, what experiments did they try, and you use their journey as inspiration for your own. And this kind of ties into one of my favorite quotes from Creative Calling, which is, the best antidote to negative thinking is creative doing. When in doubt, just start. So this is the bias to action that's also talked about in Designing Your Life, that you want to keep moving forward, keep doing, do that daily habit, write that sentence, draw that sketch, take that photo, that the momentum builds upon itself, and the act of doing crowds out all of the negative thoughts by just creating and giving into that creativity. Lastly, a very helpful framework from Creative Calling is the IDEA framework. And the IDEA framework stands for imagine, design, execute, and amplify. And you can use this framework as a takeaway from this video to live a more creative life. So I for IDEA is imagine what's possible for you. Dream big. This is about goal setting, picking goals for yourself, and not being shy and embracing your creativity. D is for design your life and iterate. Figure out what works and what doesn't. E is for execute on your vision. Take small, consistent actions every day. A is for amplify your creativity. And here Chase advocates for sharing your work, connecting with others, and building a creative community. So amplifying your creativity isn't just about success, it's about being rich in spirit and grounded in your community. So here's my challenge for you. What 1 creative habit do you want to start today? So it's like the old saying says, When's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the next best time to plant a tree? Today. So whether you're watching this at the beginning of 2025, the beginning of 2026, or any time in between, now is always a good time to start and to start being more creative. So use the frameworks and tools in this video and check out some of the books I mentioned. I think they're very applicable for any aspect of your life. Looking at it from a more creative lens, you can check out Creative Calling by Chase Jarvis and some great Designing Your Life, which is the title of the book. Design goals for design thinking and iterating and the bias to action. Simply amazing. Designing Your Life is a must read for anybody, no matter your age, no matter your stage in life. And then the tried and true Atomic Habits is always going to be good. It always has reminders, great takeaways to pick up new habits, get rid of old ones, and living your best life. So I hope this video was helpful and informative. You can check out the other videos on this channel for more general book reviews, and I hope to embrace my creativity more in this new year and create content like this that's a little bit different from my normal just simple book reviews, and share more with the world and create more in the world. So thank you for watching and have a great day.